On April 29, 2023, the In Case You Missed It podcast released an episode titled, Should We All Be Pirating More?
Wait, that's illegal.
Now, hold on a minute, let me cook. I'm not on board with stealing from creatives, especially in the middle of a pretty big dispute between the Writers Guild and Hollywood production studios. However, piracy is a little bit more complex than the 280 character tweets would have you to believe. That episode goes on to talk about digital preservation of media that is not accessible anymore due to limited physical production runs, or they simply do not exist on any streaming mediums. Take some streaming exclusive shows. What happens if they get no physical release and Disney or Netflix decide to pull the show? Do those shows that many people put in hard work to create not deserve to live on? When you get a chance, go listen to that podcast episode. It's a good one. It also got me thinking about the gaming side. The better part of the last 10 years have also been spent going digital. But you don't need me to remind you that many games are still impossible to repurchase via official digital storefronts, and buying used copies mean you have to pay a huge premium to acquire them, and you need the appropriate console to play them, and if you don't have it, that's another premium on top.
But Danny, you're advocating being a thief and not paying developers and writers and creatives for their hard work.
Well, first of all, studios are already not paying them enough for their services, and they have all the money. Second of all, the money spent on buying legal copies secondhand don't go to the original creators anyways, and no one screams about that. Not to mention, residuals don't pay out nearly as much as you used to, especially without old school television subscriptions, and gaming doesn't even have their own version of that. Look, you'd have to live under a rock to not have noticed that piracy is back on the rise. And with so many different streaming services pulling content to different game launchers, on top of corporations not paying their writers and developers well, you can't be entirely surprised at this. So while I say buy your music and movies and TVs and video games via the appropriate means whenever possible, the reality is it's not always possible. This video isn't about how to download that content, but even if you do purchase some of it, that podcast episode got me thinking that maybe people could use some help in figuring out where to store all of this content, so that's what we're going to cover in this video. Hey, Danny with the DMT here, your new favorite place for all things music, gaming, and tech. Did I successfully hook you with that piracy thing only to turn this into a tech how-to video? Well, that was the idea, and I have no shame in it. Okay, so this isn't 2004 anymore where you could just burn your terrible LimeWire versions of songs on the CD or dump everything into a USB drive that you lose in that drawer of random electronics cables. The reason why streaming services got so popular in the first place was its ease of use and, most importantly, access. You can watch or listen to the thing you want from your phone, tablet, computer. Hell, they started putting it on your watches and fridges. I guess you could put your music and movies and games on a hard drive and call it a day, but that's not nearly as convenient. So we need to look at some network attached storage or NAS solutions in order to stream your media from anywhere over the internet. This effectively creates your own mini cloud server. There are two primary routes to go here: a simple plug and play solution specifically built for media streaming, or if you're feeling all techie, you can go as far as creating your own home server. That will allow you to do more than just stream media, and it really depends on your needs, but let's start with the NAS. I'll admit most NAS solutions are a little bit more complicated than plug and play, but pretty much all modern NAS devices offer some form of lightweight OS that you can set up on an app on your phone. Depending on the amount of data you need to store, the options range from simple 2-bay devices all the way up to 16-bay devices. The latter would be overkill for the vast majority of people, so let's just say you pick the 2-bay NAS. You're also going to need server hard drives. These are drives specifically built for long-term, continuous 24/7 use. You can technically use non-server grade hard drives, but do so at your own risk. The reason I call out hard drives over SSDs is that you don't really need a ton of bandwidth performance, especially just for media streaming. Plus, the cost per terabyte is more efficient and cheaper than SSDs. Of course, nothing is stopping you from using SSDs, especially if you have the dough. You'll notice that most NAS devices are diskless, but still start at around $150. That's because these are still technically computers. They need processors to actually run the software like Plex, which we'll get to in a minute, so you can actually access your files remotely. This is why that old computer you happen to have collecting dust in the back of your closet could be an option, but that's where we're entering server world and it's a little bit more setup. So you have your NAS, your hard drives, you pop them in, what next? Well, the exact steps depend on the NAS you got, so you'll pretty much just follow the manufacturer's instructions, connect the NAS via Ethernet to your home router, and then go through the setup process on a phone or on a computer. This is where you'll likely run into the option to set up a Plex media server. Plex is a service I mentioned earlier. It's the most popular software to use for media streaming because they have apps on pretty much all devices and adds additional information like the year something was released, the season, the amount of episodes, the cast, and so on. Just follow the steps there or pull up another YouTube video if you get stuck. At this point, you'll need to make sure that another computer in your house, likely the one that you're downloading the content to, can then transfer those files automatically to the media server, and then just make sure that your files and library are organized in the way that Plex recommends. Okay, I know this is a lot, it's a little bit more than just plug and play, but you figured out how to download the content over the internet, so you got this. Besides, that was the easiest solution to streaming your questionably sourced media.
What do you mean by that?
Like I mentioned earlier, if you do happen to have an old computer lying around, you could use that. An in-between solution would be to use something like FreeNAS, called TrueNAS now, and then you'll just need to connect additional hard drives for the storage. However, if you want more than just media streaming, a full-on home server using any of the myriad of server operating systems could give you additional flexibility to do things like automatically creating backups of all your computers. Maybe you want to ditch cloud subscriptions and back up your own phone, photos, videos on your own server. You can use it to host your own Minecraft server to play with your friends and add mods to your heart's content. It doesn't stop there. You can set up automation for your own smart devices in your home without creating external accounts. You can host your own website, host your own podcast. You should check out our podcast, by the way, new episodes every Wednesday. And you can set up your own home security system. The options are truly limitless, assuming that you have a server that's powerful enough to handle those things. We won't get into a full-on server how-to because that could literally take hours, but the media server process would be basically the same as NAS. The point is you have options. The initial setup and cost could be a little intimidating, but if you do it right, you're probably saving money over years, with the peace of mind that the content you have available is yours and you're a bit less dependent on the major streaming services. That, in case you missed that episode, wraps up on a note about preserving digital archives of information like internet articles, you know, stuff that never really goes into physical print, because all this data needs to live somewhere, and I think it never hurts to hold on to some of the stuff that is important to you. Digital preservation is real, and while I know that I joked about piracy a bit in this video, I also firmly believe in paying creatives their fair share, but that starts at the top with the major corporations, not at the individuals consuming the art. Still, buy stuff whenever you can, and hopefully this video helped you figure out how to store your own pocket of the internet and modern arts in your pocket.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this or found this helpful at all, give a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Once again, I am Danny with the DMGT. I'll catch you next time.